asked for this? Who asked for this? Who in the asked for this? Hello, my loves. We are back. And today we are here to talk about one of the most frustrating TV shows I've ever seen in my life. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be the levels of Sebastian's ass cheeks pretty. No, this is going to be Catherine hooked up whore levels of mess. Mess of a show. Mess. If you were unaware, there is a Cruel Intentions TV show now out on Amazon Prime, created by Phoebe Fisher and Sarah Goodman, starring Sarah Catherine Hook, Zach Burgers, Zach Burgess, and Savannah Lee Smith, based on the Cruel Intentions movie, written and directed by Roger Kumble, which is based on Les Liaisons Dangereuses by Pierre. Can I just say by Pierre? I tried pronouncing his name and I can't. Now, this one has a funny backstory because it was actually meant to be a TV adaptation film that was in the works in 1999. Then a prequel series that was later reimagined as the 2000 direct-to-video film Cruel Intentions 2. Fast forward, and then it's not until 2015 that NBC picked up a TV pilot for a continuation of the movie storyline, with Sarah Michelle Gellar herself signed on to doing this. But then the project was later passed. Then we get Amazon's involvement, which I guess they picked this up from development hell, and an official series order was given in April 2023. It has now been released. It is now out there. I have to say, overall, whoever decided to do this, what the f*** were you thinking? What are we doing? What are we doing here? That is very bold. That is very brave of you. My hat's off to you, even though I don't want to take my hat off, but it is off to you for having the cojones, for doing that, for trying to reimagine a movie as iconic and as brilliant as Cruel Intentions, and trying to replicate the magic that was. Truly, I commend you for your service. Phoebe and Sarah, who have created this, thank you for trying. I don't think anyone would go into this show expecting anything other than buffoonery. This one frustrated me the most because despite everything that it had going against it, I actually found myself enjoying parts of this. I was so ready to hate on this, to trash on this, to be like, yes, this is absolute clownery right here. Get it off my screen. Get it off. And in the first two episodes, I gotta tell you, I was close. I was very close to just tapping out and being like, F it, I'm just not gonna have a video about this. But I decided to stick it out, and you know what? I'm happy I did, because there is a lot to say here. Number one thing I want to go through first is the comparison between this and the movie Cruel Intentions. Are you ready? Here we go. Who in their right mind would really think that this would outdo the Cruel Intentions movie? Let's be serious. No one thought that this show was going to be anything. Hold a candle to the Cruel Intentions movie. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucked? Are you serious? Are you cracked? Are you cracked out of your mind? Starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Philippe, Reese Witherspoon, and Selma Blair? Really? Just that cast alone, did you really think you could cast anything better than that? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And the casting choices here, I want to get into it more later, but can I just say, there is no comparison here. Cruel Intentions, the movie, wins by a long shot. There was just a magic to that film that I didn't even realize until rewatching it for this video. I started off watching the show, having not have watched the film in years. So it actually was pretty cool doing it this way because I didn't really have that attachment to the Cruel Intentions movie, if I'm being honest, because I watched it years ago. I watched it when I was younger, and for whatever reason at the time, it didn't leave as much of an impact on me. But I watched the show, and I said to myself, hey, there's some parts in this that aren't too bad. I rewatched the film, and then I'm like, oh, they already did that. But better. Because there were honestly a lot of plot points I forgot about the Cruel Intentions movie. I honestly only remembered that Reese Witherspoon was the bet between the two step-siblings, and the step-siblings had a weird thing for each other. That was literally the only thing I remembered about the movie. So, rewatching this time around, I realized, yes, the Cruel Intentions TV show is basically a beat-by-beat copy of the movie with the same plot points, the same character dynamics. The only main difference is that this is set in college and is about sororities and fraternities. That is it. To be more specific with what they copied from the Cruel Intentions movie. Are you ready? Are you absolutely ready for this? So they copied essentially the characters. You have Caroline, who's supposed to be Catherine. You have Lucien, who's supposed to be Sebastian. Annie, who's supposed to be Annette. And Cece, who's supposed to be Cecile. They even go as far as to copy the side characters. We had Blaine and Greg in the movie, and now here we have Scott and Blaze, which I found insane. I'm sorry, I don't like making fun of people's names because it's your birthright and it's your parents wanting to name you that. But I just could not. Blaze? I've never met a Blaze. I'm sorry. Like, are you Draco Malfoy's friend? Or they also copied Court. They have his character there for the pilot as Rourke. And then we also have the music teacher, Ronald, who is now Professor Hank Chadwick. So they literally copied all the characters. Yes. Yes, that's one. Two, the whole setup. The whole setup with the bet, but they do change it a bit here, which I get it for TV, but then that's what made Cruel Intentions so good. For TV, they made it less cruel, ironic enough. Here, it's just to please her mom because she feels pressured from her mom for her sorority house to stay intact, and in order for it to stay intact, they need the president of the school's daughter to be in the sorority house. So in order to get her in the sorority house, she needs Lucien to sleep with her, get close to her, to bring her into the sorority house.
I need you to convince her in the way only you can.
So I deliver, and I get her to pledge Delta Phi for you.
That change alone was already annoying because that's what made Cruel Intentions so good, is because Catherine, aka Sarah Michelle Gellar, was such a bitch. She was a ruthless, psychopathic bitch. She thrived on watching people be miserable. She loves that. She found that entertaining. Like, that's how sick she is.
This is a challenge. Screwing the new headmaster's daughter should be my greatest victory.
It just, it alleviates that character more, humanizes her more. That was already weak. That was pretty, oh my god. That was pretty weak to me. We get Annie, who is the daughter, and instead of it being the headmaster of the school that they're in high school, I believe, in the movie, it's for college. We have Rourke, which was Courts, who over Catherine in the movie, but now screws over Caroline in the show. But then what they did differently there is that they didn't have him connecting with the character Cecile. Other things that they did the same. Relationship between Annette and Greg in the film, because they are supposed to be friends in the film. Basically similar here as well. Annie is friends with Scott, that they knew each other from school for years. We have Cecile falling in love with her, not teacher, she's a student helper. Still is that kind of student-teacher dynamic that they had in the movie. The whole, well, they won't they can't really because he's her teacher type of thing. So they have that here as well. We have Caroline eventually sleeping with the guy. They have a pool scene here with Annie and Lucian, which was just not nearly as sexually charged as the movie. Are you serious? We got ass cheeks, y'all. But seriously, that whole moment where he just turns around and shows his dick, it's like... They also have a scene here with two girls kissing. As you guys know, the iconic kiss with Sarah Michelle Gellar and Selma Blair, but this time they had it between Caroline's character and Annie's character, so that was a bit of a change, but again, it's just the same. There's just so much that I'm like, okay, that is the same from the film, though. Like, you guys are doing essentially the same thing. The whole, oh, I can't sleep with you, but then ends up sleeping with her, but then it all blows up. He breaks her heart. Caroline yells at him and is like, you can never be loved. You can't change, Lucian. You're scum. You're scum of the earth. You're crusty. You know, we got the same thing. Obviously, they kept the cross as well. You know, that's also in here. Crazy when I rewatched the movie how many beat by beats there were for the plot, for the characters, for the relationship dynamic. Not only does it copy Cruel Intentions, but it doesn't do it nearly as good as Cruel Intentions. Not even close. Not even close. It's not as sexy. It's not as compelling. The actors themselves aren't charismatic, aren't as charming. The humor is dry as shit and not in a good way. I did not laugh. I did not laugh once because the humor was so forced. It was so painful. It was so painful at times. This show is not funny. It doesn't know how to be funny.
You guys are like a power couple, like the Clintons.
That's not the compliment you think it is, Cece.
Tokenite? You know, I didn't think that was cultural appropriation. Are the Greeks easily offended? Don't you think we're in great shape?
I don't know. I've seen you in a swimsuit before.
When I was rewatching Cruel Intentions, I'm like, damn, they really hit the nail here with the humor.
Can I your daughter?
Excuse me?
I said, would you care for some water?
That's a testament to the script, a testament to the actors, and a testament to the directing, because it all just worked so much in its favor with the way that the comedy just landed in a lot of these moments. The line delivery, oh, especially by Ryan, he was just so fantastic with his line delivery. The actors here just could not replicate that, but not in just their delivery, but also with the way it was filmed. Oh, and the script, the lines they give them. I'm like, who thinks this is funny? It's not. It's not funny. So take everything Cruel Intentions was, do the beat by beats, but make it less funny, less sexy, and less charming. Also, the fact that Cruel Intentions just had a fucking banger of a soundtrack. Are you serious? From the intro song to the last song to Colorblind, Praise You, Fatboy Slim. You just can't beat it. The love that was put into the Cruel Intentions movie is just, it's just like no other. It had no right being this good for a teenage drama. No, but yet they did that. They did that. They pushed the boundaries. They made it very sexy. Oh my God, some of those scenes, I myself was just sweating here. Like, girl. But yeah, it's just not the same. What can I really say? Did y'all expect that? No. All of this to bring to my one point here is that I will say, as a semi-positive for this show, I truly believe if this show did not market itself as a Cruel Intentions TV show and change something so that at the very least it's not a beat by beat, because they didn't have to do the pool scene. They could have changed certain things and have this just not be a Cruel Intentions TV show. I really feel like that was the hugest detriment to this show, because yes, despite everything, despite the criticisms I will give it, there were bits of potential I did see throughout this show that had me actually semi-interested in seeing where the plot was going. And if it wasn't for it being Cruel Intentions, I think it would have stood more of a chance, especially when it comes to this type of TV show where you're not expecting freaking Breaking Bad levels of genius here. You're not looking at dark levels of genius here. It's fluff. It's fluff. You want to turn your brain off. You want to have fun. If it succeeds in that, that's great. Job well done. But unfortunately, there still were issues with it that are apart from it being a direct Cruel Intentions play-by-play. If it was just simply the sorority house on Builder Lane, I don't know. What the sinister sororities, sorority sister, I don't know. You know what I mean. If they would have just named this differently, had it be different, I truly do think it had the potential to at least not have people immediately hating it and not have people comparing it, because you just cannot compare. At least it would have been like, okay, well, this was decent. Not the best thing ever, but it was decent for a show and what it was, and just wanting some drama. That was the biggest mistake that they made, was making this Cruel Intentions to begin with, but whatever. Let's get deeper into the actual specifics of it, okay? Episodes 1 and 2 in particular drove me absolutely nuts. I was ready to go and rip my stuffed dinosaur that I love so dearly from the frustration I had watching these first 2 episodes. It was a pain. I felt secondhand embarrassment, and it's unfortunate because when you look at who wrote it, it is unfortunately the creators of the show, who are Phoebe Fisher and Sarah Goodman. They wrote the first 2 episodes, and it's so crazy to me how you can just tell when it's a different writer, a different director for things, because I swear to you, when the next few episodes hit, and in particular episodes 5 and 7, there were particular ones that were pretty decent, actually, pretty good, may I say. I was like, okay, this feels different. This got better. This scene was good. This dialogue was not too bad. And then I look and it's written by different people. Back to the first 2 episodes. There's so much cringe dialogue. I wanted to die. No, I didn't want to die. But seriously, we have lines like, the sorority sisters are setting up for plantation night. Yep. They talk about the cultural appropriation of toga night. You'll be Dwayne The Rock Johnson. They make the same joke too. Oh yeah, this was another thing that drove me insane. Especially in the first 2 episodes, they make the same joke over and over again.
The vice president's daughter, Annie Grover?
Were you dropped on your head as a child, or is there some other relevant Annie Grover?
The vice president's daughter? Were you dropped on your head as a child?
Which just pissed me off. There would be something said earlier by a character, and either that same character will say the same joke later on, or a different character will say the same joke later on, and the character will acknowledge that, like, oh, like, what is it with you people with the Clintons? There's one about the Clintons in particular that they repeated twice in the same episode, and I'm like, yes, I get it. Ha ha he he. The Clintons suck. Ha ha he he. Yes, let's move on.
You guys are like a power couple, like the Clintons.
That's not the compliment you think it is, Cece.
A real power couple like the Clintons.
Find a new reference.
They make the same one over and over, and I'm like, be creative. This is not funny. No, even the first time it wasn't funny. Second time you're overstaying your welcome. Dialogue felt really stale, especially with the line deliveries coming from each actor, unfortunately. I do want to try not to be too harsh on them because, again, like, I know how hard it is being an actor, but goodness. Goodness.
All's well that ends well. I'm president, Jenny's not. Plus, she conveniently decided to spend her senior year abroad in Madrid.
Reader's Digest, Good Housekeeping, and if they're a boring publication that I can't think of, I know nothing.
Say what you will, but at this point in the night, I'd argue it's evolutionary necessity.
I like to always give them the benefit of the doubt that, you know, maybe it's what you guys are working with, that it's the script, because, yeah, this dialogue is not doing anybody any favors. Maybe it's the direction as well, the way y'all are being directed to act. Could be it too. I like to try and give them the benefit of the doubt. I truly do. Especially Savannah Lee Smith because I've seen her. I saw her in the Gossip Girl reboot, and as much of an abomination as the reboot was, I did find her more compelling and interesting with her character and her performance there. I actually quite liked her. She was one of the highlights for me in that show. So I feel like she can act. I think she can. It's just none of it is doing her any favors. And I have to try and think of that for the other actors as well. I don't think this was doing them any favors. But again, it does start getting a bit better as the episodes progress. I'll get more into it. But for the first 2 episodes, what a pain. What an absolute pain watching these people act. I'm so sorry. It's just deadpan delivery in an actual deadpan boring way. I get sometimes they were trying to emulate, obviously, what the characters and actors were doing in the original Cruel Intentions movie, but you just can't. It's just not. It's just not. More on the first 2 episodes. The plot, too, in episode 1 with trying to take down Rourke, who is, like I said, a copy of Court, which is Catherine's ex in the movie, so which is now Caroline's ex in the show. They have this whole plot line where they're in college, and then this whole hazing incident happens, but, you know, nothing like that. I already know y'all are going to be like, oh my god, wait, is it graphic? No. It's this guy gets a pop can thrown at his head and suffers a head injury. So after this hazing incident, she has this whole plot to get him back. And by the end of the episode, there's this whole gotcha moment. Gotcha! Where he is set up to being framed for the whole hazing incident. And that he's the only one to blame for the hazing incident. Because, yeah, since the guy got knocked on the head, apparently he can't remember anything from that incident. They have no one to punish this whole time period. So yeah, now in the present day, by the end of episode 1, they have this whole moment where they pin it on him that it was all his fault. And that's that. And it just felt so lackluster. Oh my god, there was nothing clever about it. There was no good setup about it. It was literally just, oh, here's some papers that we found in your drawer, and oh, here comes Lucian saying, yeah, you actually were being really suspicious and vouching that he's a shithead and all this stuff, and it just, I don't know. I just could give less of a fuck. I'm like, who is this man? Who even are you? But that was a major plot point for the first episode. Annie also comes to school in the pilot, and already Lucian or whatever, he's like, oh, okay, yeah, the bet, yep, I'm gonna try and get to know her. I'm gonna try and sleep with her so that she can get into the sorority house, sister dearest. And that's the weird thing too, again, because with this bet, it's never explicitly said that he has to sleep with her. Like in the original Cruel Intentions, it's just do whatever you need to do to get her in the sorority house. Until she's in the sorority house, then I'm not sleeping with you. That's the bet. And so technically he didn't even have to sleep with her. And technically he didn't even need to do that. He literally could have just manipulated her in any way he wanted to just get her in the house. So that was the other weird thing too, is that Lucian didn't need to do any of that. Episode 2 kind of continues on the bullshit. We start getting political, which is my favorite thing to watch in a turn off your brain TV show. Can I just say, I get it. We're in a political climate. You can't run away from politics. I get it. But may I just say, when it comes to a mindless fluff TV show, like Gossip Girl, like Pretty Little Liars, Vampire Diaries, that type of bullshit, I don't want to hear about politics. I'm sorry, I really don't. I don't want to think about that when I'm trying to watch people and some tea being spilled. Some drama here, some queens queening out. I don't need someone preaching to me the Greek system is fascist and racist and misogynistic, and I I just for me personally, I don't need that here. I also have an issue with what the hell the target demographic of this show was because it's set in college, which I will say is in its favor for the sense of if you want to be sexual and everything like that, that is refreshing that you're setting it in a college instead of a high school. Thank you for keeping that in mind. So I appreciate them for at least setting this in college for those purposes, but is this aimed towards teenagers or is it supposed to be for college young adults? I don't know. A lot of the dialogue and humor and plot point, it felt like it was supposed to be aimed towards teenagers. And if you look online, I do believe it was mostly teenagers that were interested in this show. But then it's set in college. I just question who is this for? Who is it for? Because it sure as hell wasn't for the Cruel Intentions fans, that's for sure. All that to say, the first 2 episodes sucked ass. Sucked my big booty hole. During episodes 3 and 4, we have Lucian trying to sleep with Annie, making all these plots for her to get her into the sorority house, which honestly doesn't really take much for her to start getting interested in it. The whole sorority plotline. Okay, let's talk about that before I get into romantic relationships. The whole sorority plotline started getting tired so quick. There's only so much you can do, and there really wasn't much to do. It was just the same thing over and over. I need Annie to get into the sorority. I need Annie to get into the house. Make sure she gets into the house. Is she in the house yet? No. Oh, she's interested? Okay, next step. She needs to go to this party. She needs to go to this party because then that'll make her interested in staying in the house. There's no creativity put into it. There was just not really much thought because I did compare it a little bit in my head to, let's say, Gossip Girl and a Blair Waldorf scheme. Blair Waldorf scheme, those can get pretty wild. Those can get pretty out of hand and manipulative real quick. But if there's one thing about a Blair Waldorf scheme is that they're going to happen within an episode or two. And then she moves on to the next thing. But with this one, it was just the same thing over and over to just try and get her as a full pledge into the sorority house by the end of the season. From episode 1 all the way into episode 8. And at first, Annie is totally against all of it, with being against the Greek system and trying to take them down. But then she switches so quick. And again, it's so lazy. Okay, episode 2, Annie is part of the protest against the Greeks. Episode 3, she now wants to stay with the Greeks at their party by the end of the episode. And episode 4, she is fully friends with the Greek sisters now. It's just not clever. It was just so anticlimactic and boring. Is there anything else? Is there anything else you can do here? Because the way she switches to, they have this whole plan to bring this reporter and exposing the Greek system for the trash they are. And then as soon as they get to the door, Caroline greets them politely and welcomes them with open arms and says they can all come in, and then it's just a nice little get together. There's nothing crazy happening, which yeah. Okay. And then that's all Annie needed was that. It was to convince her that they're not that bad. And everybody else to convince them that they're not that bad is for them to just host a normal party. I don't know. Literally no effort. Literally the bare minimum put into that. And then the one girl, her name's Beatrice. That is the one that's most against the Greek system and trying to take them down. She falls for the trap into making her appear to be the crazy one because she goes off on a tangent and it's like, this is what they do. This is what they do. They make you look crazy, but you're not crazy. And she does this whole outburst and I'm like, girl, this is embarrassing. You're embarrassing.
This is exactly what they do.
See if maybe we can't get you a ride home.
You know what? See, look, she's evil. Not letting you do this. I'm not letting you do this to me.
It's just the whole plot, and the whole plot centers around just Annie being in the sorority, and that's literally it. And It's just party after party. It's just the same thing over and over and over again until the last episode where, yeah, she finally joins. And then it makes me think, okay, then what is going to be your plot next? Because she is here. She is there. And that was the whole purpose of your plot. If you do a season 2, your whole purpose would be just keeping her there. Because that's boring as shit. There's only so much you can do with that. Please spice it up. It's so tiresome. So yeah, so that was just very repetitive and annoying. They did nothing creative with it at all. At all. But then we get into the further episode. This is where I started questioning how this video was going to go, because not episode 3, not even episode 4, but episode 5, I myself started to feel a little invested and intrigued for this TV show. Not entirely 100%, whoa, I'm in love with this. I need to figure out what's going to happen right away. I need to see the tea, the drama. It's so hot, it's so juicy. No, but I will say that it started to get more tolerable. And one thing that I will give the show credit for that was, in my humble opinion, smart. When it came, though, to this more politically charged episode in episode 2, part of it had me tilting my head because some of the things that the people were preaching, this group was preaching, was that the sorority system, the Greek system, they're misogynistic, they are racist and homophobic. So for me, I started questioning the show's intelligence, because I'm like, wait, we are shown in the first few episodes that Blaze and Scott are in a relationship together and are in the frat together. So I was very confused, because it did seem like they were in a relationship together and that people knew that they were in a relationship together. That is presented in the first 2 episodes, so it made me question. So this group of people is calling out the Greeks for being racist and homophobic and all of these things, but yet it seems like they have a gay couple in the frat. But then, smart writing, this turns in on its head, because by episode 3, it is then informed to us that no one knows that these two be hooking up. And I thought they did. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty smart, TV show. That's pretty smart. You had me fooled there. I was like, no, what the hell? They're not homophobic. They have a gay couple in the frats. It is then revealed that Scott is in denial and keeps talking to Blaine like, oh, we just mess around because we're best friends, the whole best friend, and makes all these excuses like, oh no, like I like girls. I'm not gay. I ain't gay. You tell yourself that. You tell yourself that. We then, though, get into episode 4, which got a little bit interesting to me. They have this whole girls' night where they're there to trust each other and the bond of sisterhood, you know. Caroline admits this very vulnerable story where she was young and her mom paid her tennis coach, who was an adult, to sleep with her, to lose her virginity, to make her feel good, boost her self-confidence. Yeah. She admits this vulnerable story, and I thought to myself, okay, I think this is a very well put together manipulative tactic. And it is then revealed that, yeah, she was lying. She was lying, and it's actually Cece's story that she stole. That's what happened to Cece, but not her. That did spark my interest, though, because it was, at the very least, for the first time, a somewhat smart move on Caroline's part and somewhat smart writing, even though it's not, obviously it's nothing groundbreaking, but it was something that was at least interesting, that I'm like, okay, at least she's doing something here. Episode 5 was really a highlight for me, not so much as an episode as a whole, but for one particular scene. It made me think, oh, okay, TV show, you got something, which was a scene at the dinner table where Caroline has dinner with her mom, who's Lucien's stepmom. And we do know how hard Caroline is working to get this girl into the sorority. And again, it was because of her mom to impress her mother. And so we do get a very compelling scene here where the mom is essentially chastising her for not doing good enough and belittling her own daughter. And then praising Lucien, though, who is her stepson, and being absolutely nice to him, too nice. And then we get Caroline outbursting a little bit and finally some emotion, because up until this point, honestly, I think I didn't really get much emotion out of this character. But here she finally kind of outbursts a little bit with snapping back at her mom and saying, I did all of that for you. I was the one who did this.
So I got you Andy Grover. I got you your dinner. I got you the vice president's hair. I did it. I got you everything.
And she walks off and the mom still isn't impressed. So the mom still isn't impressed, which it actually made me frustrated. It did. It got to me, which is good. Good TV show. And then we also get a scene with the step siblings bonding that much more over this incident, which was also interesting to me with that dynamic. And I thought to myself, okay, we got some interesting relationships going on here. We got some interesting dynamics. I appreciate that there was some spark of intrigue in this weird show. We then get episode 6, which was Lucien's birthday, which I did not give a f*** about because I will get into it later. But most of that episode focuses around him talking with Annie and bonding with her, and I just could care less. We then have episode 7, which flabbergasted me, and I really liked episode 7 personally, but then again, this was before I watched Cruel Intentions, the movie, so after watching the movie, I'm like, oh, okay, that was in the movie, but I didn't realize it. So for me, not having remembered that this happens in the movie, I was pretty flabbergasted. I was pretty bamboozled when I watched this in the show for the first time. We have this whole plot with Cece and the prof, and eventually he does admit his feelings for her and that it's mutual, but then they can't have a relationship because they're student-teacher, so it's unethical. So then Cece vents to Caroline about all of this, and is even so far as willing to miss one of their sorority events, one of their sisterly events, how rude, to go spend time with this guy. This does not fathom well with Caroline, and it really starts showing how controlling and manipulative Caroline can be, and I really liked that. I really was starting to feel more compelled by that because I didn't realize how much she had it in her until these last few episodes. She does this whole plot just to get him out of the way so she can have Cece all to herself, because also I haven't mentioned this either, but Cece is essentially her assistant throughout this entire show. That's the relationship dynamic in this show, is that Caroline and her are supposed best friends, but Cece's treated more as an assistant, and she's there for Caroline at every will. Because she no longer has Cece's full attention, she doesn't like that. So what does she do? She stages this whole encounter with him. It tends to be someone else, not a student at the school, but someone else. And then it's revealed at the end of the episode that they are sleeping together. She is riding him like a pony. She does this whole plot too where it gets out that he has had relations with a student. Caroline makes the phone call, makes it anonymous, but because of this, that then makes him stay away from Cece. And then Cece then believes that he did sleep with a student and doesn't care about her. So then that leads her to go back into Caroline's arms. So her plan worked. So that was pretty cool. I was like, that's interesting. I like it. I like it when there's a well thought of scheme and it goes through. I was having a good time. I was having a good ass time with that. Okay, so there's this whole plot line where Lucien takes videos every time he sleeps with a girl. And we don't know why. We are led to believe that it's because he has a fear of intimacy and he just has a kink or something. It is then revealed that Caroline and him have a shared album where he sends them to her for her to watch. I'm like, oh, that's really but I like it because it's twisted. You know what else happens? Episode 8, the finale. We're already here. Isn't that crazy? We then have it that Caroline releases all of the tapes. All of the tapes. So all of the girls are exposed, which is really sick. That is really sick. That is really fucked up. That was a move. And I was like, damn. Caroline is nuts. Absolutely correct behavior. Overall, though, this finale, besides that whole plot point, didn't really do much for me. She has this whole scheme where she's trying to ruin Lucien and Annie's relationship now because she's jealous, and Lucien no longer wants to go through with the bed because he has feelings for Annie. I still found myself frustrated because I'm like, it's one of those moments where, oh, she has the upper hand, but if he literally just said something to Annie, then it would be fine. You would suffer the consequences, but she already hates you, so at least she knows to stay away from Caroline at that point. I also have this side plot of Blaze taking money from Scott, and I did like that scene as well. They have a scene in the last episode where he tries to blackmail Scott's dad. We're led to believe that Blaze actually cares about Scott and that he's actually in love with him, but then he is using him for money as well, which that's not love. That's and then he goes to Scott's dad, and then when all else fails, he tries to blackmail his conservative father and outs his son.
You won't want the world to find out that everybody's favorite conservative, Bible-thumping congressman has a son that loves to suck cock.
And so he literally threatens that. And then Uno reverse card, it's revealed Scott actually already told his dad. Scott actually told his dad and admitted to it. And then Scott's dad literally throws it back in his face and is like, yeah, you literally just tried to blackmail me. Wow. Loved that. I was not expecting Scott to actually talk to his dad and reveal to his own father that he's gay and that he's in love with Blaze. Didn't care for the plotline in itself throughout the whole show. Anytime it was talking about that, I was like, okay, whatever. He's stealing. He needs money and whatever. But this was a good scene. And then in the very end, to hurt Caroline, because Caroline's done all this shit to Lucien, he sleeps with her mom and records it and sends it to her. Gross. Annie realizes that Caroline's bullshit because Cece reveals to her that the tennis coach story was her story, so I knew that was going to come into play at one point. And then she believes that Caroline also made that phone call about the professor so that it would get him away from Cece, and that's literally the end. And Lucien driving his car with Caroline's cross. That's Cruel Intentions. That's that. There were some things, there were some scenes in here, there were some plot points here that actually had my intrigue and I actually thought were fairly well done. I also appreciated towards the end there were a few nice moments between the girls as well. There was one in particular between Beatrice and Cece that was really nice. There's just like inklings of moments like that throughout the show that made me frustrated that much more because I was like, you close. You have stuff in you. You have potential in you, but you ruin it with this other bullshit. It's not perfect, and I wouldn't expect it to be perfect, but it has potential. But it just didn't stick the landing for me, unfortunately, due to the other bullshit. There are also certain characters and relationships that I just didn't really care for, and plot points that I didn't really care for. There wasn't really much throughout these episodes until the last few bits of it. And then lastly, the relationships, though. Okay, the romance. In particular, Lucien and Annie. Oh my god. I haven't talked about it thus far, but I'm gonna talk about it now. Their relationship was stale as shit. staler than month-old bread. Like, these two unfortunately did not have as much chemistry as I would have hoped for, especially when they're the main focus of this show. Oh, from episode 1, Lucien is shown trying to talk to her in the way that he tries to charm girls, and then when that doesn't work, he pivots and then tries to get to know her as a person. It's just the same thing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to the whole good girl falls for bad guy trope. I know we've seen it before, and I know we'll continue to see it. I know that, but it just did not work for me here and was just not interesting at all. Annette and Sebastian cannot be replicated because the two literally got married and had babies after meeting on this movie. That's how tight that chemistry was in that movie, okay? That's how much they were connected. They literally had a scene where she slaps him in the face, unscripted, and he threw up afterwards because of how sick it made him feel. So to then have these two, and having the room to grow this relationship too, mind you, because we only had an hour and 40 minutes in Cruel Intentions. So here, you had that space to do that, which they do, but unfortunately, it's boring. Lacking the chemistry, I'm sorry. I know the two actors are attractive, I know that, but they just lacked it. They just didn't have the bond. I will fault this on the characters as well, which I'll talk more about after this. But it was also weird to me and confusing when I actually started kind of liking the scenes between Lucien and Caroline more. And I'm so not about it. Like, they're step siblings, right? I'm not about it, but for whatever reason, their scenes actually felt more sexually charged than Lucien and Annie's. Felt like they had more chemistry and actually a more interesting dynamic because, again, in the movie, Catherine is just using Sebastian as a toy. However, here, she actually does appear to have some type of feelings towards Lucien, and that's what scares her so much, is that she also says at one point that once you give a guy the thing he wants, then you're not valued anymore. So that's why she's so scared of sleeping with him, because she's like, yeah, he's not gonna chase me anymore. He's not gonna want me anymore. So it's a very interesting dynamic there between those two. And I did find it more compelling once they showed that mother dynamic and how he was there to comfort her and he genuinely did feel bad for her and was there for her in her moment of need when she is vulnerable. That was interesting to me, but I don't know. I doubt they would actually go through with making them the main couple because, like, they're step siblings. And then lastly, the characters, aka the actors. I don't want to pick on them too much again, just because I do feel bad, because they are actors at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, this is the script that they were given, potentially the direction they were given, so I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But I especially did not care for the casting of Lucien here. I'm sorry. Like, he looks like a child. He looks like a boy, which, yes, he is, I believe, the proper age to be in university here, which is good. But then Sebastian, aka Ryan Phillip, in Cruel Intentions, he just, and okay, obviously this guy is good looking, but the way he behaved as Lucien was very much clearly trying to mimic what Ryan was doing as Sebastian in Cruel Intentions, and it just did not work, my guy. I'm sorry. I just would not buy it. I was not buying it for a second that he was this mega playboy extraordinaire and panty dropped all of these girls. Like, I truly did not buy it for a second. This actor, unfortunately, Zach, he just did not sell it enough for me. I apologize. I really do apologize, because I'm hopeful that he will grow into his own and have more opportunity. There was an episode too, he had a toothpick in his mouth. I talked about Savannah before, that I liked her in Gossip Girl. Here, again, I feel like the script probably wasn't doing her any favors, or the direction, because I also just did not care for her character. I'm sorry, but I found her annoying at one point, actually. because she just kept doing this good girl, huh? Okay, I mean, yeah, if you want to come over and yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, it's stupid, but no, I want to, yeah, if you really want to. There's this whole good girl act, this whole naive, innocent act, which I get that that's supposed to be the character. But also, Reese Witherspoon's character in Cruel Intentions was actually rather smart and tough and really held her own, honestly. I didn't really get the whole acting all innocent and pure vibe with Annette in Cruel Intentions, to be honest. She was more smart, just doesn't want to sleep with a guy who is a fuck. Whereas they made the character more just innocent and and naive in this show, which I just didn't like. And then I did find Sarah Hook as Caroline interesting. Still unsure, to be honest, because for the most part, I would say she did play very deadpan and one note throughout the whole thing. But again, that might be the direction she was given. And it might be what they told her that they wanted the character to be. So I don't know. There were moments in there again that I found her interesting with her manipulative tactics and where she did crack sometimes. So I get it that that's probably part of the character, her cold, blunt demeanor. But it was very dry and bland for the most part and very, very one note for the most part, which is also just not very interesting to watch the person say things the same way over and over again and be a bitch over and over again. She wasn't too bad as a character and as the actress too, but overall this show had potential. I feel like that's what frustrates me the most is the potential that it had, and had this not been labeled as the Cruel Intentions TV show, it might have stood more of a chance, but still has a lot to fix nonetheless. But I see it. That's why I'm so frustrated with this show. That's why it really does frustrate me, because I did find myself enjoying bits and pieces of it. If they do a season 2, they have a shot. They have a shot to improve and make the characters that much more complex, build on these interesting relationships that they have set up. But we'll see. I don't even know if it will get greenlit. Who knows? Overall, it was a very frustrating piece of work to me. In comparison to the new Gossip Girl reboot, which unfortunately I did watch a chunk of that, I would say that this was more interesting, to be honest, than that show. I would say that. Anyway, I've been talking for a long time now. Let me know all of your thoughts on the show. Let me know if you watched it. I'm assuming probably none of you guys watched it. But if you have, let me know your thoughts, because I have seen some people defend it and saying that it wasn't too bad. Let me know if you would be curious into seeing this go into season 2, or if you just want this canceled and all reboots canceled. That they cannot reboot a beloved piece of IP. Even if they try, it's very hard to emulate that, especially when it's a beloved piece of IP. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time. Mwah.